Calling to order the Citizens Transportation Advisory Committee meeting for October 9th.
Tara Bank, Jason Broughton, Ruby Bravo, Joe Brito,
Here.
Justin Chenault, Rupert Farley,
Here.
David Fall,
Here.
Denise Flatley, Robert Fogg,
Here.
Glenn Goldsmith, Larry Gross,
Yep.
Yolanda Hipsky, here, Michael Hoyt, Cassandra DeGroot,
Hey.
Nicholas Podnowski, David McLaughlin, Ken Poe, James Powell, Matthew Rowe, Rodney Thomas, Alan Watkins,
Here.
Clinton Wells,
Here.
Timothy Welsh,
Here.
and Kevin Wilkinson.
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum.
All right. Has everyone had a chance to look at the agenda? We're going to pull item off tonight's agenda. It's going to be resolution 25-13. It's going to be pulled off the agenda. Then that, does anybody have any discussion amendments to the tonight's agenda?
This is Rupert, move approval of the minute of the agenda.
Second?
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. The agenda is approved. Let's go to the approval of the last two meeting minutes, August 14th and the September 11th meeting. But we did not have the August 14th in the packet last.
This is Rupert. I move to approve the minutes of last month's meeting and the previous month's meeting.
Staff has one request that we need to amend to properly spell Linda's name correctly.
Okay. When would that be?
The September minutes.
Wants to make an amendment?
Move to accept as amended.
Second,
Second.
McLaughlin seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstain? Nope. All right. Minutes are approved. Public comment period. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak? Seeing none, do we have any public comment online? Or any emails?
To read aloud.
Okay.
Great. This is from Jeanette Hernandez Guillaume. As a widow and mother of a special needs child, I work full-time and am unable to transport my daughter sometimes. Could you please consider having more transportation for the special needs located in Stafford? If you need more information, please contact me. Thank you, Jeanette Hernandez Guillaume.
Okie dokie. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, the VDOT and transit reporter problem. And reporter problem, didn't do the Austin run?
Yep.
Okay. Anyone have any problems to report to VDOT?
Been quiet.
I got one pothole, brand new asphalt on Lansdowne Road. Between Deep Run where the creek crosses the road and the Park Road.
Between Deep Run?
Yeah, on the heading to town side.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of odd since it just paved it.
Headed to where?
Heading towards the railroad in the park. It's in that lane.
Uppercase M.
I could probably think of some other problems, but that's the only one
Uppercase
I can think of right now.
Let me also say, if you do have, say you discovered a route. If you go to my.v.virginia.gov. Or is it .gov? No, it's .gov. If you just put in my.v.in Google, you can also report unsafe conditions, medians that are in disarray, whatever, and so that's also an option. And I try to get back to everyone, as quickly as I can. Tamara's still waiting on a question that she had from last month that I'm still trying to get answered. So that might be a good route as well, because that's all documented. And I absolutely don't mind taking comments here, it's just, I don't know if they get reported with our communications folks.
I have as a former district traffic engineer for VDOT, it irritates me when I go around the area and I have a number of traffic signals that you have 2 lanes on this side and 2 lanes on the other side, but they merge into one past the traffic light. And I see that there are 15 cars in this lane and 1 car in the other lane. And needless to say, I always get into one with one. And VDOT has put a sign out on Gordon Road,
Mhm.
alternate merge, which makes it so that they do pretty much spread out and make the same number. And if it wasn't such a crowded intersection, it wouldn't make a whole lot of difference. But people don't realize when they all stack into one, and I know they do that so that they don't have to worry about trying. My wife does that,
Mhm.
and she because she doesn't want to try to squeeze in. But they don't realize that when they do that, it takes twice as much time on the traffic signal. When it takes twice as much time on the traffic signal for you, that means that the line sequence, they're stacking up that much further. And then that ends up coming back on the next phase on your side. It's hurting everybody to do that. And it just helps everybody when you all try to cut that line down as much as possible. And I'd like for we to talk to the traffic engineering department about using more of those signs like they have on Gordon Road
Okay.
with the alternating merge, and try to get people to try to do that a little bit more. And it's a lot of places around that happens.
Yeah, just this morning I was waiting in traffic and someone got into that right lane, I'm pretty sure because they knew they were the only one there and they sped out of there like a bat out of wherever. And startled people all properly lined up, but, yeah, I see it
Which
too.
intersection is this?
Right there at exit 133. And when you're heading east.
Hmm.
You go around, you get underneath the bridge, and at that first traffic light where other people are coming off, you lose that right lane. And
Mm.
somebody here had mentioned that as an issue before the signs went up, and then when the signs went up, I think there was a comment about they were not properly placed. Like you didn't see it until you crossed across the signal,
Mm.
so.
Okay.
Yeah, I can picture and understand what you're saying. I'll try to find out
How about,
how often those signs are placed and what the criteria is for whether or not they're needed.
do you know what exactly is going on down at Glenda's Way on Route 2? Where I think they had another death being killed there
Oh,
Saturday night.
yes, Kathy Coffey, who, is like the,
Right.
yeah. I'm trying to remember Michelle Shropshire's original
Right.
title, but, yeah, Kathy, they went down, I think she and Kyle and Marcy went to kind of look at the area, talk to some folks. And I've not heard an update other than they had, feet on the ground and.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Obviously.
they're doing something. They're adding different poles or lights or something, but I think what would really help is some street lights.
Yeah,
Because it's really dark right there, and I hate to say it, but people, you can have all the blinking yellow lights in the world, people ain't gonna stop. In fact, I see more people not stopping for school buses these days than anything. It might take a railroad crossing thing for,
Mhm.
to save the pedestrians down there, to be quite honest with you. It's not good. I mean, I think that's 3 or 4 that's been killed right there.
I think this was 3, yes.
Yeah. All right.
I think that's just in the last 3 years.
I mean, it's like 5 lanes of traffic technically that you gotta cross.
Yeah.
That's a lot to ask for, but. All right, hope we have a follow-up on the,
problem, public comment that was previous submitted, if you pull it up. We were able to get in contact with, the person who, both initially, Ms. Whitmer, and then, also got in contact with the PE that they reached out to, and they provided, kind of a document overview of their opinions on the road, which mostly says that there's a elementary school in the area that has kind of multiple roads going to it. One of them is specifically marked as more of a crossing, one it isn't, if you scroll down. Yeah, they just provided their, I guess, transportation opinions for that. So if it's something that you want to pursue, go for it. We did have the FAMPO resident PE and safety person come in. They did an assessment. I'll keep it brief, but they didn't necessarily agree with observations and recommendations. That's not necessarily unusual, but it's kind of just something that there might be disagreement on the treatments here. So it's good to kind of potentially promote that there might be a safety or item need, but not necessarily that these treatments are kind of universally like supported. And John Merritt is a consultant and former town or municipal engineer out of Colorado. So.
Like his recommendation of the roundabout, it does make sense at that intersection. But we'll leave it up to you guys.
Yeah, I did actually pass this along to Kyle and Rick Spurlock, Carolyn Oster, and our traffic engineers, Rob and Craig, so.
I mean,
Just
I think there
FYI.
needs to be a little bit more specific. We felt like it was very much a desktop kind of quick, these are kind of some options, not necessarily specific, recommendations that would work within the area. So,
When you're trying to get everybody's comments,
yeah.
can help with that conversation.
Any other comments?
Yeah, just more a comment, more of a question, but the visitor center that's right off of 95. I would imagine that, with all the construction they did, it seemed like with the signage, it was very hard, people were missing it. And I was wondering how is the visitor rate for that center? It's just curious if you had that on just because every time I'm driving there, it always seems, I never quite understood the right exit, if I was thinking of myself as a outsider and trying to, which lane am I supposed to be in? Because it's, people don't realize that the road goes around and wraps back out to 95, and then they, I don't know, it's crazy. I know y'all, the choir here, and I'm preaching.
That would be
Yeah,
interesting to know whether the visitation's up or down
Yeah,
based
on the
on.
local road rather than on the road.
right, exactly.
I'll see if I can find out.
Thank you.
All right,
What is your name?
Yes.
Yolanda Hipsky.
Okay, thank you.
all right, any other comments for Rita? If not, we're gonna move on. Item 7A, GW Ride Connect presentation.
And I'll give a quick thing. Lee wasn't in today, so I'll go very quick. The full report is in your packet. But this is a service that's run out of the George Washington Regional Commission. We can go down to the next slide. And it is a transportation demand management agency or program. And what these are done is it's designed to try to help facilitate carpools and other rideshare initiatives and basically just try to limit or ease the single occupancy vehicle trips that are operating within the region. So it's basically a catch-all. These are fairly common across the country. However, the unique thing for this region is that we are one of the biggest and busiest out of all these transit demand management programs. So they're looking at 50 years of service. So they've been providing the region kind of ride sharing support and carpooling support for over 50 years. And they're going to be celebrating with an open house later in December. So you can drop in anytime on Wednesday, December 4th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Next. So again, these are applications or strategies. So if somebody wants to call GW Ride Connect and say, hey, can you match me with a van pool, or I'm starting a van pool, or even something as simple as if you're familiar with slugging and informal carpools at various parking ride lots or at transit stations. This is a way of kind of coordinating and tracking a lot of the activity that's happening. Next slide. So again, they were doing slugging. This is known as informal carpooling, and it's usually what happens in tandem with either HOV lanes and transit infrastructure. So if you're not aware of it, it's what Lee says is do exactly what your parents told you not to do and get into a car with a stranger. They tend to use this as a way of accessing HOV lanes at a cost-effective way, and then you don't necessarily need a carpool on the way home, particularly if you have transit support. So it's usually aligns with that. Next slide. So they've been doing ridership counts. They will go out and kid you not at 3 a.m. in the morning to start looking and observing folks. And they do the audit and kind of track how many folks each day are riding. Next slide. So they've observed quite a few folks, so several hundred folks during their survey. They will note that, and I'll put this as asterisks later, the ridership has dropped. They did on the first day of school. They think they kind of messed up by picking that date. However, they kind of track users over time, and it's very slow trickle initially at first. You normally get actually just under an extra or 2 riders a day. So you basically have a car every 2 minutes, but during those peak times, it is right up. Car people go, car people go, car people go. And we've seen a fairly decent recovery thus far, not quite to pre-pandemic levels, but they are seeing increase in ridership generally as time goes on with this. Next slide. There you go. You see the number of slugs and the change in slugs over time. They've had a year-on-year increase in the previous year of about 144%. So it is recovering. Not all parking lots are recovering at the same rate. Some lots that also have had the new OmniRide bus service has kind of eaten into a little bit of that, but they are seeing a general increase. And with the school thing, they're like, that's probably going to limit some slugging behavior, just because with the first day of school, particularly with parents, your timing and everything's going to be more fragmented, so it just might default to car only. Yep.
That headline at the top right, correct, 4 cars and 4 riders. That doesn't apply in the report to routes?
Okay, for that one, so the 610 Mine Road lot, they were that was previously an underutilized or not used lot. I believe that one's fairly new and recovering, so they're seeing activity there. And I don't think that that's been a normal trend previously.
I thought it might be a typo because those are the figures for the Route 17 lot.
I don't know.
Okay.
All right.
Do you have any idea, this is off the wall question, what percentage of the express lane traffic in the AM peak is this?
I do not know.
Because if there's got to be others there that are not doing this, that did essentially carpool.
They have their other ones. So these are the parking lot counts. You do have other services where folks, particularly online, if you can log and register your things. I don't know if they're pulling in this into their data right now, or at least in this part of the report. Could be in the full report, but I don't know right off the top of my head.
Probably there somewhere, but I'm just curious.
Yep. Fine. And yeah, so on this day, they calculated that there was about 800 fewer trips on 95, and the impacts, because traditionally TDM, surprisingly enough, actually provides a real big return on investment as far as reducing vehicles on the roads and the impacts of a single occupancy vehicle, because basically almost every single rider is basically 1 more car off the road or 2 cars off the road. So it's high impact. All right. Y'all have any specific questions? Good?
Good. Anyone?
I was just gonna make a comment that for the first time, I had heard a commercial on WTOP for Ride Connect and
Hmm.
never heard it out in the wild.
That's good. All right, moving on to 7B, GW Toll Road Authority brief.
All right,
We can go.
The presentation.
the report is for your information.
In your packet.
If you want to do a deep dive in late night reading, feel free. All right, I provided the law resulting in the George Washington Toll Authority. It's basically a question of what does this entail? It is a authority designed specifically along the Route 3 corridor, designed to move traffic along that. It's basically says if you have a road, you can acquire property. Neither the road nor the property exists, so it's basically a paper entity at this point in time that has no funding stream, no investment, nothing associated with it, other than the fact that it exists at a legislative level. And it's very specific as far as using along the Route 3 corridor.
So whatever we do, it's got tied to Route 3.
Mhm.
And where was the funding coming from?
There's no funding.
Tolls.
There's no funding. It's basically, it's like having a business license and everything, but you don't have a storefront, you don't have inventory, and you don't have any investment. It's
But
zero.
the authority has the authority to toll.
On a road that doesn't exist.
It's gonna go at first.
Yeah.
I understand that
Yeah.
part, but we do have legislative approval to toll.
Rumor has it that they have the authority to tax.
You got river,
Yeah, we'd have to build the road that would meet the qualifications for
Right.
that, yes.
right? I'm just looking at it, throwing it out here as a, yeah, how you gonna fund this bridge? And with our TA kind of dead in the water. How else are we gonna fund it?
Well, this only includes the city of Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania County.
And Spotsylvania County.
Mhm. Stafford County is
That's interesting,
not
too.
included, and it'll require a 70% of its board to vote in favor of adding another jurisdiction after it exists and is operating for 1 year.
Say that again?
The toll authority has to be basically in operations. So but financially active for 1 year before it can add another
Okay,
jurisdiction to it.
okay, all right. All right, just,
Can take out bonds and revenue, but beyond that, it's,
I understand what you're saying, but what, can we, does it have to be a new road?
I would have to dig deeper, but it's,
Okay,
it says the Route 3 corridor. It's kind of a weird item where it doesn't
and this was
explicitly say.
done for the one that was supposed to come off there by the visitor center, and snake out along
Mhm.
River Road, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's where this came from.
So is there an update on this, or you're just
No.
presenting the legislation that was?
That's the legislation as is. It hasn't been touched. Any changes to it, we would have to go back before the state legislature to
Okay.
amend it.
That was another, all right.
I mean, I apologize, but I haven't had a chance to really study this, but I have kind of a stupid question. It says George Washington Toll Road, but if we're talking about Route 3, isn't that Kings Highway?
Yeah, so this is the toll road that was proposed from the basically the visitor center 95. But that was gonna go across kind of the Central Park area and terminate around Gordon Road. Basically be a small express road around, and it was proposed that that was going to be the toll road.
Okay,
When that project got removed, this authority still exists for it, but that project was. It's
Pure.
not in, it's not in Spotsylvania's,
Yeah,
any of its documentations anymore. It was voted out, basically.
I apologize because I'm kind of new here, but so we, in the area, the region rejected the RTA,
Mhm.
and this is looked at as a possible alternative?
No.
Or is this is just a.
10 years
completely
before.
separate- Okay, never mind. Thank you.
I think you're gonna have to. I don't know. I think that's the only way you're gonna fix this stuff. You're gonna have to do a toll road authority for, an outer connector. And build it and toll it. That's the only way we're gonna get it done. Our government might not exist in a year. We don't know. All right.
I have a little problem with authorities like that. That is, once they're formed, the people who run them tend to think that they've got some authority, which they do. And that they're kind of above the voters and all this political stuff, you know,
But it's congestion pricing, River.
Hmm?
It's congestion pricing.
no resemblance. But yeah, I like it better when you've got projects that are voted on by your local representatives who have to be elected every once in a while, instead of having to talk to people who are on the toll road authority, you know, that because I've talked to people in authorities before, and they seem to have this attitude that, you know, they're a step above these lowly supervisors and city councilmen and things like that.
Well, the RTA wasn't gonna be authority, but that was gonna be elected officials that headed it up.
The problem I have with the toll, the hot lanes particularly, the agreement is just probably the worst agreement ever done in the history of Virginia.
Yeah, that's not a very good example.
I mean, the initial contract for the lanes was under half a billion dollars. Okay, VDOT put in about 95 million for the first extension. And the taxpayers built the first about 25 miles. And that was 3 lanes. Was changed to 3 lanes later. But so the taxpayers built that for HOV use. Then they turned around and gave that section to a private company, a foreign investor, if they would build another 25 miles. So that so they gave away not only the existing infrastructure, but they gave away right of way that could accommodate up to 6 lanes. So they gave them 6 lanes of right of way for them to build 2 lanes of road, which is a big problem that can only relieve traffic in one direction. So anyway, so the first initial contract didn't work out too well, where it dumped out at Garrisonville. So the state put in another 30 million to bring it down 2 more miles. Then the contract had in it clauses that guaranteed the company would make a profit. And as part of that agreement, there was no compete clause where any transportation improvements that would take away from their toll revenue, that the state would have to reimburse the toll road authority for another 80 years of lost revenue, which would amount to a significant amount. And part of that too is there's a specific ratio built into the toll agreement where if the HOV riders exceeded a certain ratio, that the state had to pay for each HOV rider. And that is another significant problem. You don't know what the future costs of that are going to be. It could be $100 a rider. The state has to pay. So there's a lot of things in that, and that was only the first 2 agreements. The third agreement I didn't get my hands on, that was basically a no bid contract. They just approved it. And I don't have, that agreement on me. And the old agreement was online at VDOT Mega Projects. And they closed down that website, so I don't have access to it anymore.
All right, any other questions, comments?
Is this an opening? We expect to see this as a future smart scale effort?
There is no activity on this item. So to be defunct, like Ian's a director on the board and there's not been any activity whatsoever in 15 years or 12, 13 years.
All right, moving on to seven C, resolutions. We removed 25-13. That's not up for discussion tonight. 25-14, 25-15, and 25-16, and 25-12.
Yeah, that's an open, 25-12 is opening public comment. So that one's relatively simple. It's the HVAC system for the main building, main maintenance building. 25-14, so they are purchasing a driving simulator, as well as they're having rehabs to their admin the Davies Center roof. In resolution 25-15, they're obligating operating support costs from DRPT to the Rappahannock area agency on aging. Yes,
We're gonna talk to them if we need to,
Yeah.
or before we go
Why
through
not?
all of it.
feel free.
Oh,
Like-
okay. Right.
Yeah.
And usually I'm the guy that says, hey, there's something like consent items, but however, 25-13 pays for 8 body on chassis vehicles. I don't know what that is, but 8 body on chassis vehicles, $2 million, $250,000 for 8 million vehicles. That's the comment. Because we get such little information. But anyway, that's what that resolution does. Buys $250,000 vehicles, 8 of them. 25-14. I don't think I had a comment on that one. 25-15 was the one that actually addresses the public comment we had at the beginning. It's kind of interesting. However, 25-15, here's the problem with several of these resolutions. If you look at the third bullet of the third whereas, 25-15, for example, there's a couple of them this way. Whereas the public comment period for the 24-27 tip to obligate funds for blah, 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 and.
I know, no verb.
It's no verb. The one,
Should say has been closed.
yeah,
somewhere.
well, in 25-13, it said something like the period was, the top public comment period was conducted between date and date.
That's a connector to each of the whereas statements. So each of those statements is connected as a list. So that hanging and is just.
No, here's my point. No,
Missing a date.
take the whereas by itself and read the third one there. It is, there's, okay, no, that's a perfect, that's a good example. See, it says was held October 21st. There's something there. If you read 14, some of the others.
Yeah, number 16's got the same problem, there's no,
Yeah.
has been closed.
16 and, oh, wait a minute, did you change 15?
So the fourth one is the end of the list. That's why it's got punctuation. And it has a full sentence at the end. The first 3 are the prevailing list items.
No,
No, the rest
I
are
have
few
a
verbs.
question about that.
stand by just a second here, maybe, so I've got 25-15. Well, maybe you fixed it. Okay, no, it doesn't. It just says the public comment period. And if you look at, I think it was 25-13 says, and the public comment period that, started or was conducted, it
Has
makes
been
sense.
closed.
Yeah, it was closed on.
Yeah,
Oh,
you got it
at least-
right on the first one.
Yeah.
At least I,
Ones there was no has been closed.
Open up, try 25-13.
yeah, I mean, usually there's like, if there's a public comment period, you'd say from
Yeah, it just,
October,
yeah, there you go. whereas a public hearing to adjust funding was held October 21.
Began on September 17th, right?
Yeah. Well, it began on and ended. So those other, make sure the other, there's a couple of them that doesn't have that verbiage in there, was held on or was conducted. It's just a,
That's a
it's a
excellent,
stupid sentence that doesn't say anything. And if you're gonna have a whereas, it should say something that makes sense.
excellent
And
point.
there's just a couple of them. That's just an easy fix. So
Yeah,
that
I first noticed that when I saw 2516. And then
2516, right, was the same thing.
I backed up and took a look at the next one. I missed that, you know, but yeah, at least 2 or 3 times.
14 and
It's
16
been
were, yeah,
missed.
okay, so that's it, the third. Let's make sure that all the whereas and when it talks about a public comment period, it says something that like it started on, ended on, was conducted. That's all, and I'm done.
So if we were going to approve these, we would want to make a motion with the modification that the resolutions are amended to include the public comment period.
It's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, you can
Copy what I'm
endorse
saying,
to
it's just-
Yeah.
amend. It hasn't gone to the policy committee, so it can still make changes.
Whereas a comment.
So we have a motion, from Dave with his modifications.
I second.
Yolanda seconds. Any discussion
The motion is to accept as amended.
as amended?
Are the, so is the public comment period still open or what's going on with that?
No, and that's why it makes sense, because the whereas makes sense, and the public comment is closed, and that's why we have this resolution.
And there's no public comments at all for any of those projects?
Like,
Or no more comments.
I mean,
Because I think we should.
we're still in open public, well, no, we're still in public comment period, so that. And so it's,
Until the 20th.
the asterisk is that right now, as CTAC members, you're not technically members.
in some,
Public,
in
like
some
this.
cases, because they won't be signed until, they won't be
Yeah.
until October 21st, yeah, so some of them are still open, some of them are closed, but it should say what that period of time is, period now.
Good catch.
All right, so I got a motion and a second on the amended. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. All right, calendar approval for the December meeting.
Well, calendar approval so
Oh.
right now we have our calendar dates. So if you do not want to have a meeting on Valentine's Day, this is your opportunity to adjust the schedule as you see it. So go ahead, we'll do it. This is something that the policy committee will adopt, but if you have specific changes, we can now make those changes. The next item is that the consultant has agreed that if you wish to elect to have a December meeting, there's not one currently on our schedule on the second Wednesday, they can make that or just a river crossing meeting, and it will be during the public comment period. So you'll have the public meeting and that. So if you want to add a December meeting, this is your opportunity to do so.
December meeting this year.
December. We do not currently have a December meeting. We don't have meetings in July or December. But the consultant said, if y'all wanted to have a river crossing specific together, be able to discuss it with public notification and everything, we can do that for that date. So you don't have to wait till January if you don't want to.
Could you remind us when the open house is gonna be?
November 20th from 5 to 7 PM at Frednet.
And when is it anticipated that the policy committee will vote on river crossing?
Spring.
Okay.
Late winter into spring, probably. We will be going through public comment through December. It will go for the back in January. Policy committee will be getting kind of first iterations, but the consultants aren't going to make a final alternative selection and the additional supporting documentation until they won't start working on that till really January. So at that point in time, you have another meeting or two, so it could be anywhere between March or April at the earliest. I really doubt a February decision.
The consultants interested in having us have December so that they can start their, their finals, but is that why they're asking?
Yeah, yes, staff asked for that so that you didn't have to wait to January. And our thing is we're the citizens group, so therefore having the comments during the public comment time would probably fit.
That's just
better.
nicely.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to have the meeting in December, because there's a few things that Mr. Watkins brought up, and I have a few things I'm bringing up today, so.
I think that's December 11th, right?
December 11th. It's good, it's not a holiday.
Not a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
The 11th?
Oh,
Oh, that's 2025, yeah.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we have a meeting on December 11th to talk about as a follow-up on the river crossing.
For December 11th,
Second.
second by Al, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have a meeting on.
Be our normal 6 PM time.
Mhm.
6 p.m.
Guys,
Pending time. You'll still get like the full agenda. It'll be basically agenda. I don't think we'll do approval of minutes for that one unless you really want to do it, but I'll basically say agenda, river crossing meeting is the only item, so. And public comment technically, so.
Could we arrive at what we would like to potentially recommend to the, to the consultant prior to that? Could we do that at our November meeting?
Their information for everything won't be released until November 20th.
Right.
I think we need.
But we still have, as we found last meeting and what Joe preside over tonight, we already have certain things that we thought would be potential recommendations. So, it would be just nice to be prepared and occupy the amount of time that we spend on the December 11th as effectively as possible. So maybe at our November, we just make our recommendations amongst ourselves, so we have a plan of attack, I guess.
Okay. Future agenda item,
Sure.
Right.
Sorry, do you mean to provide our any recommendations this committee had in November so that they can digest them in time for the December meeting? And brief to that, or
For us to
present them at that?
us to go over everything, just so, to find out where there's consensus amongst ourselves. Any things that we think are positive improvements or negative things about the existing roadways and so forth. That way, when we actually meet with them in December, we're pretty much set on what we want to be able to tell.
Yeah, I agree. I just would like them to have it so that they can speak to it in December rather than, well, we'll get back to you.
True. Okay, so
I
at our November meeting, we could arrive at that then.
would just caution, just because none of their river crossing full findings would be available until after that meeting. So November 20th is when you'll see the full modeling results, the micro simulation results.
Right.
Don't know if budgeting or anything else other than a planning level might be available then. So you'll be basically just doing it off the environmental assessment.
Right.
Without any traffic data.
Right, which is what we pretty much have based our recommendations thus far on, because we don't have the traffic data. Is the traffic data gonna be provided to like TAC before the 20th or?
20th is basically the release date.
Okay,
So.
all right.
Any more discussion on that point? Next, and so the calendar, so we got December 11th at 6 p.m. All right, CTAC agenda material criteria.
Okay, well, roll this into kind of a discussion and item that if it's something that you want to put in place tonight, we'll entertain it as an action item for a vote. But it's basically for CTAC members who are bringing presentations to the CTAC to try to establish at least some ground rules, particularly as far as incorporating it into the agenda, making sure that staff is able to both provide public access, public notification of the materials, that the materials are accessible to a wide range of users, and just kind of have kind of general rules so that it's not something that changes a lot, has a lot of differences that staff and or the CTAC is having to adjust on the fly that can extend meetings. So I basically wanted to let y'all tell me what y'all want. I'll tell you what staff kind of has to do from just an organizational level, and we can kind of put those rules in so everybody knows what to expect when somebody's giving a presentation.
We'll start with what you gotta do before every meeting.
Okay, so typically, all information has to go out 3 days before our meeting. However, staff basically has to have the agenda ready to go about 3 days or a week before that. So normally, with the exception of when TAC, like this week was 2 days before, we usually have a little bit more lead up. And so a lot of our information is basically ready to go. So for us to be able to troubleshoot documents or test for accessibility or whatnot, we probably need at least 3, if not 5 business days to make sure that if there is an issue, like a file format isn't working, or there's a reader or accessibility issue, that we can give y'all time to make any changes and have it linked on the agenda. We don't want to constantly have like a hidden agenda item. We will preferably or must need that items are linked externally. So if, for example, Rupert links to a publisher that has copyright over stuff, we cannot be duplicating some stuff on our website, basically posting articles otherwise. In addition, once we have it, you can kind of, when we host things on our website, we're charged per, megabyte of stuff that's on our servers. So for us to be able to even put PDFs on there, it's going to cost us that, and we have record retention requirements. So it has to be up there for X amount of time. And so for us, it's hosting over like 3 years, for example. And that's the reason why we would prefer not to do it. And finally, it allows y'all, if y'all all of a sudden don't, like, for example, if I put Al's River Crossing stuff online, we host it, we have to keep it up there. And for whatever reason, let's just say the Belmont property comes up and offers them like $2 million to take it down, that's in his purview to take down his book list. I mean, I would take that, but FAMPO would not be able to do that. So it's something that if your mind or situation changes, we would not be able to say, oh yeah, we can delete that because it's a part of public records, but you can break your own link because it's your presentation. So
okay. Yeah, normally what I have been trying to do with most of the stuff, not last month, but is just put it up on YouTube so that you don't have to carry anything other than the link that would go to the presentation.
preferably staff would prefer PDFs. So just because it's more of an accessibility issue, it's a little bit more uniform. YouTube would have to, like, if you put up just a video without speech, text to speech readers don't necessarily capture what's on the screen, so it'd be a visual impairment need. PDFs are a little bit better. PowerPoints work, but we've had noted that not everybody has Microsoft products.
Right.
So right now it's that. Even links, if you're using Google Live, but it's going to have limitations on size. Otherwise, staff is kind of, we're content blind. We just have to worry about document and public engagement requirements.
Like Dropbox or something like that.
Anything that you want to link that folks can click on and it goes to is fine.
All right. So that's deep. All right, how about a week prior to the meeting, like the Wednesday before, is that a good deadline for everybody to have whatever they want to do?
Yep, that would be good.
So let's figure on that. Everybody good with that? So if you want to submit something for the meeting agenda, let's set the Wednesday before the meeting as the deadline for that. If not, you get pushed to the next meeting. And then what John says about the content stuff. Over my flip phone head. I can tell you that. All right, anything else we want to discuss?
How does everybody feel about more in line with the public comment where there's a specific amount of time to present and followed by question or comment? Those two kind of integrating that, which can go wire.
I agree. Some time constraints would be nice. I don't think 3 minutes is enough.
It's certainly not. It's
Yeah.
obviously this is an agenda item that's
Yeah.
been voted on and added, so we
Yeah.
can kind of do what we want. I just
Course,
some time frame of.
Some
existing-
agenda, I mean,
the
we
framework
do
and
get
questions.
lost in space on some agenda items, so.
For a presentation by a member of CTAC?
Yeah, so like 30 minutes, right, for the presentation, followed by a 15 to 20 follow-on question period.
You know, some of the differences are when it's a comment from the public, there's no response, there's no back and forth, there's no question.
Right.
They make their statement, they're done. something that might have a lot of discussion. I don't
Right.
know if we could, keep it as brief as possible. I don't know if we could. I don't know how we do that.
Well, I'll be the first to say that obviously last month, it went on and on and on and on. But what we were kind of doing was to trying to get everyone involved and ask questions as we got to different points and things like that. So it wasn't
Kind of here.
it wasn't really a confined presentation and then talk about it afterwards. It was just all intermingled. So I don't know if we can, whatever you think, because
I think if it says agenda item, I don't know. I don't. Uh-huh.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
concepts,
I
the
agree with
concept's
what you're
good.
saying, but I don't know how we could.
Well, I mean, you could have it open-ended where you have, I don't know, whatever we decide, right? I mean, the meeting starts at 6 o'clock. Nobody wants to be here till 10 o'clock, so maybe we constrain it to an hour. But whatever it is, we establish and agree on that, and then everybody tries to, and if we have to do a second, part 2 the next month, then we do that. But we could also extend in real time the comment period by a simple vote. We still have the things that we want to talk about, we'd like to extend by another 20 minutes or so on, right? Or a longer period if we need to.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's all kind of fungible.
We're at the 30-minute point and then.
Right. And then it would be up to Tim or
Right.
whoever's in the seat.
That's what I said, typically with like the tax sometimes, but mostly like the policy committee, they kind of give guidelines. You have 10 to 15 minutes of presentation. How much ever discussion happens, but whoever's presenting, which is typically more of an outside entity than the members, they have that window. So they know that it needs to kind of be between 10 and 20 slides. Like, don't have too much more. You can go more if you go fast, but if you're going to sit down and slow burn each slide, and it's normally the chair that decides, and the chair also then says, okay, we're almost at the end, 2 more minutes or whatnot, or if they're taking forever, which we've had before, where somebody was literally on slide 3 out of 50, and they're like, okay, your 10 minutes is up. This isn't going fast enough.
It's an precedence of the policy.
Would you want to try that with the report we have for tonight? Joe, can you keep it down to a half hour less?
I do what I can, got a lot to cover.
But not the answer we wanted to hear.
There's at least that expectation to keep a presentation, get to the meat, and then at that point in time, the discussion is free flow. So it's not a
Yeah.
hold up, but again, it's up to the chair that says, okay, we've wandered into the weeds. So
Sounds reasonable.
at
20 minutes?
At one point in the future, will we have the opportunity, after we've done everything, that had the opportunity to speak to the consultants in December, to bring our ideas, since we are an advisory committee, to the policy committee and actually do a presentation for them? Because otherwise, we're talking to ourselves, not to them.
that would probably be something you would need to coordinate with policy committee.
Yeah.
So they might, my thing is that the CTAC and the chair's role within the policy committee, they are a ex officio kind of member, so they have standing at the table, but have
Right.
typically has not been, like, normally we're allotted speech during public comment, which is kind of a gray area. So that would just have to be up to the chair, and chairs can be very different.
No, I disagree with that. As the ex officio member in the past, any subject that comes up, I would allow, I didn't felt no compulsion of not speaking on a subject. There weren't many of them, I do agree with, very few. No, you're a member, but you can't vote.
Right,
Right.
yeah, right.
Right.
It's like our non-voting members here, they get to speak on every subject. So you vote.
We'll get you in there, Al, some kind of way.
Yeah, and we can.
You're gonna stand right next to me? Is that what-
Yeah. I'll hold your hand.
May have to.
All right, so we got are we gonna lay this down in law or,
You tell me what specifics you want to vote on to whatever specifics you can, but if you want me to write everything down and bring it back, I can do that as
20 minutes.
Rupert says 20 minutes. I say Wednesday before CTAC deadline.
Staff is requesting at least put it in.
Is everybody
PDF
cool with
format
a
if
20-minute presentation and then endless comment period if it's a
And
heated argument? Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's,
I just was spitballing,
yeah,
and, or 20 minutes with a 20-minute comment period, option to extend.
yeah.
I vote.
Well, let's go 30 minutes comments. Cause we got a lot of people, we got a lot more people we used to have too. It takes a while to get around there. So let's go 20-minute presentation, 30-minute discussion, we can vote together. Right, cool with that?
I'll second that.
Can you write that? We're gonna get him to kind of tweak it and bring it back to us, all right? So we don't have to really, y'all can sleep on it a little bit, all right? But I think that's kind of the guidelines we're trying to work with.
It doesn't work properly in the future, we can change it again.
That's right. Yeah.
At least we can.
It's more generous than tech, so it's.
All right. All right, moving along, staff reports, policy committee, tech committee.
Okay, so with the policy committee, they actually had a long list of tip public comments to open, but after that, they had kind of a very shortened version of the river crossing presentation that was a little bit updated. So y'all actually ended up getting a little bit more of the full fat. They have time limits, so we had to trim it down a little bit. For the river crossing, I provided an intro discussion to changing the CMAC STBG carbon reduction prioritization methodology. So we're looking at reworking the formula of how that will operate. Currently, it's those pots of funds, which equate to just under about $6 million a year, are divided up by mode, and then it's a competitive process through the jurisdictions and transit providers. We've been kind of looking through the last 3 years of how that's been operating. There's been at least a little bit of imbalance of if you're a jurisdiction that kind of muffs their applications badly, you can be out of funds for that process. And that has happened at least twice. So we've had a weird kind of thing, and we're trying to go back and say, okay, how can we kind of not have this feast or famine happening depending on the projects? And we've also had funding come in unexpectedly. So as I said, we expected $6 million last round. The state came in and threw another $3 million in after the call for projects over a 6-year period. And that caused projects that would not have traditionally been funded in that fiscal year to actually get funding and then have it backtracked to 2024. It was kind of a unique item, and our current methodology that really doesn't have a way of addressing that. So we're starting the process of basically ensuring that FAMPO is still going to be evaluating the projects, but it won't be as competitive between the jurisdictions, that each jurisdiction will get at least a specific cut, and then they can pick their projects that they want to advance, because you're having situations where Fredericksburg was only submitting active pedestrian projects for CMAC. Spotsylvania was submitting CMAC transit projects. Stafford had an allotted transit in STBG, but never submitted a project, and so it went back into the pot. It was kind of creating some unique funding kind of swaps going on that was creating a lot of variability in the outcomes. So that's one thing that they're going to be revisiting. We are moving on to the transit demand model. We are looking to actually approve and get our transit demand model up and active. We don't have the maps yet. They are incoming, but basically the model has been done. The consultants working with VDOT have basically produced the model, and we are starting to dig through some of the outputs. So we have kind of the big textual or the big spreadsheet of the outputs. And what we're seeing in that, and Lita, please feel free to jump in on this because this is part of your project too, is that for the first 6 years through 2030, our congestion or the vehicle miles traveled and the vehicle hours traveled increase a little. We're kind of not quite keeping up in the first 6 or so years. We're not too bad though. 2050, we're falling behind significantly, where you're seeing VMTs increasing, say, 17%, but the hours are increasing 72%.
Hmm.
So we're seeing sometimes actually the trips lengths are reducing, but the travel times are increasing by 2/3. So we're seeing a lot of 2050 timeline congestion flaring up significantly. So we're going to be doing a bigger, deeper dive into that. And that's going to be the new, what we call FINA project. Future Integrated Network Analysis is basically a thing where FAMPO staff is going to be doing a very deep dive into how the model is operating, because unlike previous model iterations, our socioeconomic data is actually a lot better than previous versions. We are actually a lot more comfortable. In fact, the city of Fredericksburg and FAMPO staff sat down and went through each TAS to identify how much is this area built out, is it increasing employment. We've actually kind of nerfed some of the employment there because just physical space could not support it. We did that a lot with the both Stafford and Spotsylvania counties. Their staff went through a little bit more with fine details. So projects like Kalahari are already built in. A lot of the road network has been updated. And probably the biggest thing is that we actually use street light data for the trucks. Previously, it was FAMPO staff kind of saying, I think trucks are going to come from there.
Hmm.
It wasn't very good.
Hmm.
So we have streetlight data. You actually had a staff who had great experience helping out with that. So that was kind of the fun process of actually getting good freight data into the model. So the socioeconomic and freight stuff, that's actually integrated into the river crossing model. However, the river crossing model had to update the old network to bring it modern. Now we're going to have a process where things like Celebrate Virginia Parkway that's been built forever is actually in the model as a base, rather than something that would always have to be added kind of in a custom way. So we've updated the centroid connectors in a lot of spots. So it's a very big travel demand model update. And we're going to be doing a deep dive on the outcomes because we have a whole lot more faith in the model this time around. There's a Safe Streets for All award. So it's a partial grant award. The trick is you always take the partial regardless, but they're looking forward for that. I think it's a couple of roads in Spotsylvania. And then we are updating our federal functional classifications for a roadway network. There's funding dollars, reason why. And I think we've gotten all 3 jurisdictions. I want to say like VDOT might have had like 3 or 4 roads. Kind of, we might tweak these. Garrisonville Road is one of the prime examples. I think it's a collector now, and it's going up to a minor arterial. I think with now all the jurisdictions adding, it's over 40 requested changes. So that's actually a pretty big shift. And even if VDOT doesn't agree with all of them, even if we get half or a quarter, that's a whole lot more than the 4 that were initially proposed. So the staff has actually done a pretty good job on that. So, and that was the TAC, or sorry, the policy committee. The TAC, they had a lot more discussion on smart scale, just over the process of how kind of convoluted a bit of a mess it was. And
They were getting VDOT's construction estimates.
Okay, yeah.
11th hour.
All right, you're good.
They say that every year.
Apparently, this one was by far like the worst. Actually, I'll give you the best example. After 5, when the portal was supposedly closed, it kind of closes close to midnight. We had a jurisdiction call up and say, hey, I need you to remove this because it's a FAMPO jurisdiction region. We did. Then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, VDOT calls me and says, why did you remove that? We were directed by the jurisdiction to do it. Can't do that because now we have to change, and now we have to get an engineer to pull off on the side of the road with the hotspot to go back and add things because you can't undo something. So there was a lot more of that this time around. And it is mostly because the rules with smart scale were changing during the process. So it was consultants who were either assisting, the jurisdiction or locality staff. They were basically had less time. Jurisdiction staff had less time, and it was pretty rough going through to the point where there were still errors. Like I think a few jurisdictions didn't get stuff from their consultants, or VDOT didn't get stuff from their consultants until 15 minutes before the window closed. Like it was not I'll place it. I think folks are a little bit numb after it. They're probably gonna revisit, but there's gonna be a bigger discussion going forward from that. CMAC, they got, again, it was a similar process of redoing things. The LRTP modifications, we're kind of starting to go through that. We're trying to do as little as we can with those modifications. Basically just going through and any smart scale project that got funding, just making sure it's in the LRTP. And they had a minor discussion on the travel demand model update. Otherwise, again, functional classifications, but their big discussion point was mostly smart scale.
All right.
One of the things that was in the policy committee, I think it was 9D, was the new post policy. Did we let everyone know that what was presented?
So Spotsylvania is starting to lead the discussion of connecting 17 to Route 3 out near New Post. At that point in time, it was kind of bouncing on the ideas of whether or not, you know, FAMPO staff kind of does this exploratory research on it. But the staffer supervisor, who's kind of where that was, the bridge would connect onto Diggs, wasn't in the room at that point in time. And so they didn't make it. They kind of tabled that discussion, but just started the idea of looking at a crossing connecting Stafford and Spotsylvania close to King George. We'll see. They're going to have more discussion of that in their upcoming meeting, but it was like, we want to kind of start exploring this, see the feasibility, but they didn't really want to commit to anything until they had the supervisors who's impacting in the room.
All right. Any questions, comments on those two reports? Anything? No? Say none. Moving on. Number 9, member reports, public outreach and acknowledgement. Anything? Anybody going out beating the streets? Who's going to the governor's transportation conference tonight?
That'll be it.
Okay, all right. That's next week, the week after, something like that, 2 weeks, maybe. The 23rd.
Yeah, correct.
All right, 9B. Rupert?
Well, it's pretty much self-explanatory. All I ask is if anybody reads the article and sees some flaws in it, I hope you report them to me by email.
All right, not read it yet, Rupert. I will when I get home today. I haven't had time to read that.
It's a long article. I apologize for that.
It is interesting.
The first half of it basically deals with how we got into this mess. And the second half of it is suggestions of how to get out. So if you just want to read one and not the other, go crazy.
There's a history book and a self-help book all together.
And kids should.
All right, any,
All right.
Excuse me, let me go back to the TAC. I tried to view the TAC meeting today and I wasn't able to, I don't know.
It's not linked yet.
Yeah.
Right, because it happened a day or two ago, depending on.
Typical, some delay.
Yeah.
all right, any questions, comments for Rupert? Anyone? Seeing none, we're going to move to Joe's river crossing report.
And, 90. Yeah. Initial.
Well, it's just gonna stay up here.
Yeah.
Sounds like you'll see.
Really wanted to plug it into mine.
That helps things.
Okay. See, can I see it on?
No,
I
that
can't see it on.
gotta monitor the online. Yeah.
Just throwing it on. All right, well, I'm Joe Brito. I've been the #1 researcher in Stafford County for over 30 years. In the late nineties, I started out, on, the FAMPO, tag committee on, the outer connector shoot. Is there? Is there a way to log in here? No way to use my computer? Sorry about this. I thought when it came up,
You don't need no stinking Facebook, Joe. You can do a presentation without that.
well, I need the pictures.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
click that?
Okay, well, anyway, I started out, on the Outer Connector Committee in the late nineties. In 2013, they did a study of different river crossings, and this is, the concept. Well, I wasn't expecting this, I don't know where to go from here.
Some
Next meeting.
pictures in the PDF,
Yeah.
but I don't know if those are the pictures.
Yeah, we pulled the.
Okay, can you put that on there?
Yeah, here.
All right, I'm gonna have to just do the pictures and, go by memory, which, I'm pretty good at, so.
I haven't. I don't.
Just I won't have the links with me to use.
Did.
Bad. No, it is, I mean, but I don't belong to Facebook anymore.
John, I'm short of here. What's the open
Sure.
house on
Okay.
10? Is that?
The river crossing.
So just like the one we did.
I didn't want to start it there.
Well, with all the results, yes.
No, I did. You know, that isn't the first picture in the presentation.
She said. So she said they would dump a whole box in front of everybody.
Okay, well,
It's pretty high on that.
all right, well, let me go with it from there.
Okay.
I'm really handicapped without having links or
She'd never.
my, wording. But anyway,
Yeah, we've had.
in the summer of 2019, I was watching the Board of Supervisor meeting, and Supervisor Shelton said that she wanted to bring back the concept of the outer connector or anything that would relieve traffic on Route 1 and on the roads. So I came up with a plan. But basically, I used the comprehensive plan and I redesigned it. And what I did, I created a parallel road to I-95 on the west side with a trail. And it would use 5 existing roads. And you have, they're in yellow and orange. So the existing roads are Mine Road, Centerport Parkway, Berea Church Parkway, Celebrate Virginia Parkway, and Carl Silver Parkway. And this would be a 15-mile road that would go from 610 all the way to Harrison Road. Okay, Celebrate Virginia Parkway has over $100 million in transportation infrastructure. As you can see here, it has an extensive transportation grid network that splits the traffic up into many different directions. It's got an underpass that goes underneath I-95 or underneath Route 17 here. so you can make left turns without nonstop. And then the traffic splits up in many different directions, it's defusing the traffic. You know, this is the proposed, 5 corridors, and corridor A, I looked at it extensively, and I think the problem is that this connection here, channeling all the traffic right here is going to be problematic and create congestion. This intersection here at Fall Hill Avenue and Carl Silver Parkway is the largest intersection in the region. It can handle more traffic than any other intersection. There's 33 lanes combined going all the way around. So it's ready to go. And if the river crossing does go into Gordon Shelton, it will be split up into this intersection and the other intersection. So
Bragg Road.
yeah. Okay, now this is the Mall Road concept. This is currently built. It's sitting next to the town center, and it was supposed to connect to Harrison Road. I don't know if it's still feasible or not because there has been development in the area, but if this section was included with the other section from Route 610 going all the way to Mine Road, this would reduce traffic on Route 3 West between Route 1 and Salem Church Road, and it would reduce traffic on Salem Church Road if this was built with it. The new road would improve fire and rescue response times and transport times in parts of Stafford and Spotsylvania. It would also give better access to Stafford Hospital and Mary Washington Hospital. The senior community at the Del Webb would be 3 miles closer to the Mary Washington Hospital, and they would also have about 11 less traffic lights. Okay, this is Stafford County's master transportation plan. It was just approved by the Planning Commission, and it's going to go to the Board of Supervisors for public hearing in the future. As you can see, this is a Western network. It varies a little different from my plan. My plan had it going from Berea Church Road down and connecting with Celebrate Virginia Parkway right here. But this is a plan that's proposed in Stafford, and it proposes these existing roads with connections and improvements for a western connector, and it's also proposing to cross the river at option 2. Or B. B rather, they keep changing it. Okay, of course, this is Celebrate Virginia Parkway. It's designed, it's wide enough to accommodate it. Doesn't need improvements, except maybe for some traffic lights or turn lanes here and there. But you can see there's the parkway is about 2.2 miles, and this trail goes all the way to Route 17, and the trail's 9 foot wide with street lights that go all the way down. Just a beautiful entry point for Fredericksburg, Stafford. And it's it's designed with low impact development where the runoff comes in here and is filtered out by the vegetation. And anyway, now the Fred bus service. Basically, if we create another parallel road to 95, we could have not only you have Route 1 as a local road, but you'd have another road too. So basically, we can encourage more ridership by having the bus on the trail itself, because people are going to go from the trail to the bus stops. We build, bus shelters and maybe bike racks or whatever at the bus stops. And since there's two roads going north and south, now what we can do is have one bus that goes clockwise, that would go up the new road to Route 1 and Route 1 South. Then you have the other bus going counterclockwise. So they're going in two different directions. So if there's traffic backup or shut down one way, then they can jump on the bus going the other direction. And it just makes sense. And that way the people can stand on one side of the road and expect buses instead of having to cross the road. And the new road, basically it connects the population centers with the destination centers and the work centers. So all those centers combined with with the shorter distance, then people drive less. And I'll get into that in the next slide. Okay, the Celebrate Virginia Parkway underpass loop has a 5-foot wide sidewalk on this side and a 5-foot wide sidewalk on that side. So it does have a space where, maybe build some kind of wall here, but it does have space for pedestrians to cross Route 17 without pedestrians influence traffic. Okay, the Celebrate Virginia Golf Course has been abandoned for about 6 years now. It's got 7 miles of paved trail on it, for the golf carts. It's got a clubhouse. It has 150 parking spaces. There's a small lake there, and it's very close to the waterfall. It's also designated as open space on the tax records. So in 2021, I got the planning commission when they were redoing their comp plan. They recommended the golf course, which is right here. And there's actually there's 90 acres of land next to the golf course. It's owned by the developer that's put in conservation easement. But they recommended that being put into the comprehensive plan and designated as a park. Supervisor Snelling's killed the idea at the meeting, but I found out later that he intended to live in a new house on the golf course. He was bragging about that. So anyway, this is, these pictures are terrible on here. Anyway, this is the waterfall that's right next to Celebrate Virginia. There's trails that go to it, but the waterfall is on 1,800 acres of public land in Stafford County. But there is no public access. Developers are controlling the access because they want it to have exclusive access for their HOAs and deny the public access to 1,800 acres of public land.
Joe, on that particular piece of land surrounding it, both on the west and the east side of it, actually, according to the tax records, actually is owned by 2 individuals.
Not that piece of land.
Yes, it is. Well,
No, on one side is owned by the Ward Corporation, but that's not the side you can see the waterfall from, because that side's real steep and you can't see it. Kind of like Niagara Falls. You see Niagara Falls from the US side, but it's in Canada. So, but anyway, like I said, the waterfall is on public land. And let's see, these pictures are so bad you can't even see these historic sites. But anyway, 23 historic sites have been identified on the golf course site. Anywhere from prehistoric Indian camps to colonial activity, 18th century farmhouse, to Civil War gun emplacements, to Civil War winter camp, and the Civil War balloon launch was there that observed, I guess, the Battle of Chancellor. Okay, well, you can't even see. Okay, I had a much better picture than this where you really see the trails, but in 2021, actually in 2019, there was a park bond referendum that proposed a trail from the Cannon Ridge Golf Course, which is right here, all the way to Falmouth Beach, and then from there it would go to the George Washington's boyhood home at Ferry Farm. Now, the 7 miles of paved trail at the golf course are right here. They're in green. You can't really see it too well. There's a trail that goes from the waterfall to the Rappahannock River. And that trail was an 18th century road, and it's used as a trail today. So the blue area is the waterfall trail. Now, the only public access to the waterfall is on the Rappahannock River at that trail. But the problem is that this area here is the rapids. So the only way to get there is to launch your boat upstream and to follow the rapids down and stop here, which might be hard to do because it is the rapids. But and then when you go to the waterfall, when you leave, you have to go downstream. So you need a pickup point for your canoe or kayak. But anyway, like I said, there's 7 miles of trails here. The purple area is the Rappahannock River Scenic Riverwalk Trail that would go to Belmont and Falmouth Beach and connect with the Falmouth Beach, Pratt Park, Brooks Park, go to Chatham, and go all the way to Ferry Farm. So these are some of the historic sites on the trail besides the 23 that were identified on the golf course. So that the Mud March was, it started out about a month after the Battle of Fredericksburg. General Burnside ordered the troops to pack up and move quickly upstream to try to cross the river before the Confederates found out about it. So they packed up, started out with over 100,000 men and 20,000 horses, cannons, mules, wagons, and so forth, and it started raining. So the frozen ground started thawing, and it rained for 3 days. The first day was so muddy that, the first couple thousand got by okay, but when you have the horses and wagons tilling up the soil, it created a muddy mess, and they got stuck. So they only advanced 1 mile the first day. Second day, Burnside ordered the men to have whiskey.
River cross study, right, please?
Huh?
Can we get back?
Okay, well, anyway, this was part of it, and that site is part of it. Banks Ford Parkway is where they were gonna cross, but it was too late. And Burnside ordered a halt to the march, and he was relieved of command 3 days later. Hunter's Iron Works is also along the Riverwalk Trail, along with Belmont. Gary Melcher has some of his paintings sold for $300,000. and more, and are in the Library of Congress. Green Bank Farm was there. Here's some of the history of it. We'll go on. Now this is the mouth of the waterfall trail where it goes into the Rappahannock. Now, option A would cross about 100 yards from here, almost directly overhead, so it would have a impact on that option. Falmouth Beach, you know, the history there. See, we're talking about America's most historic trail, when I'm putting these sites on. And this is Moncure Conway House for the Trail of Freedom. Chatham will be on the trail. And George Washington's boyhood home, where George is fabled to cut down the cherry tree. Now, the river crossing study, you can't even read this, but anyway, the current miles driven in our region are about 26 million miles per day. The river crossing study showed that people using the river crossing will drive shorter distances. So if you have, let's say, 40,000, 50,000 people driving 3 or 4 miles less a day, you would they'd be driving less per day, and it's showing here that that with the river crossing, they would drive about 200,000 miles less per day. So that's very significant for our region. If we can eliminate 200,000 miles of driving and time driving, we could reduce you know, not only traffic congestion, but air pollution. This is a study or a survey in Stafford with 74% saying they want better mobility. That's the #1 issue. And 24% said it's a medium priority. So that's 98% want better mobility. And that's what the river crossing will do. Okay, on this is the river crossing stats, some of the environmental, but the main thing with option A is right here, there's a number of streams in the way that it's going to cross. So they're either going to cross them with a bridge, and in most cases, it's probably going to be a culvert. So culvert pipes require a bigger footprint than a bridge would, because you know the culverts, you know, sides go sideways, so it's a lot more environmentally destructive. So that's why I pointed that out, and I don't know why there's double of everything. Okay, the Belmont project was rezoned in July, and it basically moved option A over. If it's going to avoid the Belmont project, it has to go in between the buildings. And if you looked up here, this says resource protection area. So all this area right in here is resource protection area. So that would significantly have a big impact on the environment. And the proffers also require that the M1 zoning, which is right here, have an access road to the M2 zoning right here. So that means there's going to have to be another traffic light right here to connect the two. By law, proffers are law, so that would have to be done along with a connection here and another connection here. So that's basically going to be 3 or 4 traffic lights in a short distance on option A. Okay, here's another picture of the waterfall.
I'm wondering if, I don't know this answer, and so I'm looking at John. The proffers are an agreement between the developer and the county.
They become law when they're approved.
That's
and they
correct.
Cannot be changed without mutual consent by both. The
Yes,
Board of Supervisors and the
however.
owner.
However, the road would be a VDOT project, which is the state. The county is a creature of the state. That's why we have the basis for the Dillon Rule state in Virginia, which means, which goes back, if that's the case, and if the state comes in and says they want to put a road there, what does that do with the proffer? I mean, does the proffer go away because?
No, the proper.
One,
I-
that
I mean-
project is an approved project.
Pardon?
They've rezoned it, but that's not an approved project as of yet.
It's yeah, they rezoned it, but the proffer that I understand said you have to have access from this side to this side, correct?
Yeah,
Okay, but
but,
here,
well, if you're gonna take that away from them, then you have to pay for it.
that,
So-
well,
so
yeah, it
that's-
would be the
So
state.
that's gonna be the issue.
Yes, I mean, but that would be an
So
issue.
that's part of litigation and, there's nothing, you can do on that besides offer money and see if they take it.
Yeah, it would have to be, the state would have to purchase it, but the county is what they call a creature of the state. That goes back to the Judge Dillon's rule back in like 1800 something. And that means that whatever that means this, whatever local laws are put out by the county, the state doesn't necessarily have to rely on.
I don't think that's the way the Dillon rule works, but I'm not gonna argue about it. Anyway, like I said, there's another picture of the waterfall. Here's a picture on the golf course. It's become, beautiful, nature area. The top tier of the waterfall where people can sit and watch the water. More of the golf course area. Well, these pictures are terrible. That's the clubhouse. On the Rappahannock, there's canal systems is one of the locks. And that will be part of America's most historic trail. Then on Berea Church Road, we have this covered bridge. And they are proposing a trail that goes to it. And all we need is a connection from Celebrate Virginia Parkway to go across and connect to it. And the trail can run right underneath that. I'm also gonna talk to the owner. I know him. I'm gonna try to buy that property. And this is part of the 2013 study showing where the river crossing was. This land right here was rezoned by the city. So basically now the river crossing would have to go over here. But you can see that there was a way to avoid the easement somewhat right in here. Plus there was agreements where the easement could be moved on this side of the river. So I believe they can move the easement over some to avoid actually impacting the easement. Okay, this should have been page 1. So understanding Fredericksburg's regional transportation problem. Okay, here we are. We got the regional north-south roads that we have. Basically, we have 2 regional roads that go north and south, and they compose between 12 and 18 lanes. The east-west roads, we have 10 east-west roads that have 34 lanes. So we got 12 to 18 lanes north-south, 34 lanes east-west. What's the problem? We don't have enough north-south roads. And the problem is people have to drive longer distances on the east-west roads in order to go north-south. So if you cut those distances down by building another road, they can avoid the busiest sections of the busiest roads.
And you would induce more traffic in the future. Hooray.
Okay, and this was number 2 on my list, but anyway, this FAMPO survey asked people, if they supported the river crossing, and 78% said yes, and that's unheard of. You won't even find an elected official in the region that won 78% of the vote. So with 78% there, that's a big statement. As far as interchanges on Harrison Road and at Central Park, there wasn't a lot of support to it. But if you included both on there, then it might have hit over 50%. But the problem I see is that the federal highway guidelines won't allow new interchanges so close. The guidelines require many miles of distance between interchanges. And when you have like interchange at the Celebrate Virginia Parkway, the problem there is it's between two interchanges that are only 3 miles apart. So the interchanges will only be 1.5 miles apart, and that's going to be a problem. Then the Harrison Road interchange is exit 126, which is what, 7 miles? But anyway, so that might not get approval either. Now the cell phone data study showed the 3 top locations for crossing the river south. And the first location was Central Park. Second location was the town center, the mall. And the third location was the hospital. So out of those 3 locations, a new river crossing in this area would provide access to those 3 locations without having to get on Route 17, without having to get on 95 or Route 1, or without getting on Route 3 or getting off at the Route 3 interchange. So that provides that access and back again without impacting those areas. And the route, the new road with the Western Connector is proposed, but just the river crossing alone will reduce traffic 10% in extremely congested areas. But when it's combined with the Western Transportation Network from Garrisonville Road all the way to Route 3, it will reduce traffic by up to 20%, is what it was suggesting. And I did have it on my presentation, but it didn't get copied here,
It
unfortunately.
would reduce traffic where?
It says regionally, it says 20%. Regionally
Federally funded, so.
on the most congested area.
One place to another.
What's
It's
that?
not reducing anything, it's just moving it from one place to
I say I
another.
was totally-
Reduces traffic congestion. Severe congestion, that's what it
Spreads out the congestion.
says.
I said, we can make this
Does
to them, 'cause it's 3% of the population.
the regional and corridor specific traffic impacts are described. The new crossing would cause greater than 5% reduction in congested conditions and greater than 10% reduction in extremely congested conditions in the region. So, and I believe without the Mall Road, it will reduce traffic on Route 3 between Bragg Road and Route 1. And Route 17 between Geico and Route 1. And Route 1 somewhat, but Anyway, I'm kind of, like I said, I'm kind of handicapped because I don't have all my information with me.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, any questions or? Nothing? Okay. Well, I appreciate you letting me do my presentation. I just wish I had the whole thing, but anyway, I'm gonna go to what?
The,
Okay, in summary, I believe corridor B2 is the best corridor for the following reasons. Least direct impact to private property. Only 2 landowners impacted, City of Fredericksburg and the Silver Company. There are some conservation easements, but they're not landowners. Least environmental impact to resource protection area. A shorter corridor with the least clearing and environmental footprint. Costs the least out of all the options. I'm speculating that, but I believe that to be true. Has no impact on the waterfall. Is far enough from I-95 where the traffic noise will not impact the serenity on the bridge trail overload. Longer bridge span will allow more wildlife mitigation and more possibilities for trails to pass underneath the bridge. The longer bridge span has a much smaller footprint and has much less environmental damage to the RPA than many culverts of option A. Option B2 is about a quarter mile shorter than option B1, and with 40,000 trips a day, estimated in 2015, that would be 10,000 miles less of driving with option B2 versus B1. A longer bridge will allow the runoff to be controlled for greater distances by channeling the water to more environmentally friendly locations for contamination and treatment. Whenever you have a culvert pipe, usually the culverts, when you go to a culvert, you go down and up and so forth. With a bridge, it's going to be straighter, so you can channel the water to better areas. B2 maximizes the use of over $100 million in existing infrastructure and will have better traffic flow than the other options. The many connections to Route 17 and Celebrate Virginia transportation grid will diffuse the traffic congestion. And the new road will improve fire and rescue response times and allow Stafford ambulances to get back in service quicker. So 3 miles there, 3 miles back, shorter distance, so that's 6 miles. So that's pretty significant, going 40 miles an hour, so. Okay, and this,
all right, thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe? Anybody? Anyone? All right, thank you, sir.
thank you.
I learned about the waterfall. I did not know about the waterfall. Never seen
I'm
it.
gonna check that out when it comes down.
Number 10, public comment. Any more public comment?
Online.
Can't get access. You say you do have a public comment?
Yes,
Yes,
1 second.
yes. I wanted to comment.
Sorry.
I don't know if you can hear me or not. I did unmute.
Yes, we can hear you.
You can. Okay. I'm Barbara Wright, and I'm vice president of the Celebrate HOA, which is a 55+ community that is built on and around the Celebrate Parkway. And so I know he's saying it would reduce congestion in a lot of areas, but it will greatly increase congestion along the parkway, and there's at least 40 or 50 homes that either side or back to the Celebrate Parkway. And so that's really going to be an issue. So when Joe says it will reduce or not impact the serenity of certain areas along 95, it's certainly going to increase the problems with serenity or decrease the serenity in the Celebrate neighborhood. So that's a huge concern as far as what we're concerned. So it's kind of weighing some of the other options might take away a couple of houses, but then you have all of these other homes that are directly impacted by the noise and the pollution that would be coming along the parkway. And these are seniors in a 55+ community. So I would like for you to take that into consideration. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Wright.
Thank you.
Any other public
You're-
comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. One small item. Yolanda, as vice chair, you're more than welcome to attend the policy committee on Monday night because I will be absent.
On Monday,
Yep,
coming up,
yep. And if-
No, not next Monday, the
Oh.
Monday following,
It is?
21st.
Oh,
21st.
well, I guess I can go then. It's usually the Monday after our meeting.
Often, not always.
All right, well,
Good try.
Yolanda, you're more than happy to go in my place if you'd like to. I will be back and I can go. I thought it was this coming Monday. All right. Any future agenda items anyone would like to add to the agenda?
We'll have the river
Today.
crossing discussion, part 3.
I don't want to add to it, but I wanted to question something here. The Caroline County, are they a member or not?
They are not a member of FAMPO, but the policy committee and have allowed them to serve on CTAC. So we have people from King George or Caroline able to attend and be active members. They can't serve as chair, but they are voting members.
The reason I question that is because I don't think I've seen, since I've been on now for close to a year, I don't think I've seen any of the Caroline representatives at a meeting. And in the case of us needing a forum,
They do not count towards quorum.
they do not
They
count.
do not count. towards- Yes.
So
in a
they're-
unique
so they're not, so they're technically not members then?
They are members, they have voting privileges, other than they're kind of at like more akin to at-large members. Actually, when I say they can count toward quorum, but they don't count towards the jurisdiction. You have to have 2 out of the 3 jurisdictions present. So they do not count as a jurisdiction present, but they do count as, to the total count. So if there are 3 people from Fredericksburg, Stafford, Pennsylvania, and 2 people from Caroline, King George, that's quorum. They just don't count towards that. So sorry, I should have clarified that.
As long as they don't, it doesn't matter.
We are aware, we notified that the members that they have appointed to this committee aren't active, but until they either tell us to remove them and other people, they are appointed members.
Okay, I'm sorry, my wife's in a wheelchair. I got this.
All right, so if you don't have a future agenda item tonight and you want one for next meeting, make sure it's before the Wednesday before the meeting.
I have to get the materials, yes.
Sooner the better.
Yep.
All right, Rupert, this is your spot here.
Yes, Rupert, to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Hey.
Adjourned.
Please leave those there.